At my son's wedding, my son's wife introduced me to her boss as an unemployed loser. The moment she says it, the air around us changes. It's subtle but unmistakable. Conversations nearby soften, a few heads turn just slightly, and I feel that familiar pause people make when something inappropriate slips into a room dressed for celebration. We're standing beneath crystal lights, the kind that scatter warm reflections across polished floors, and yet her words land cold and sharp. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't laugh it off. She delivers it cleanly, confidently, as if humiliating me is part of the evening's program. And for a split second, I realize something chilling. She believes I deserve it. I stand there, still, my posture straight, my hands relaxed at my sides. 75 years of living have taught me that reactions reveal more than words ever could. Inside, though, my pulse slows, the way it does right before something important happens. This isn't embarrassment. This is recognition. Recognition that I am being tested in public, on a day meant to honor family, by someone who assumes I am powerless. The music continues behind us, a cheerful melody completely disconnected from the tension now tightening around this small circle of people. Her boss looks at me, then at her, then back at me. I catch the flicker in his eyes, confusion, curiosity, something not quite adding up. She keeps smiling, clearly comfortable, clearly enjoying the imbalance she's created. She elaborates without being asked, talking about how times are hard for some people, how not everyone manages to stay relevant, how she's grateful to work somewhere that values ambition. Each sentence is a careful twist of the knife, delivered with elegance, not malice. That's what makes it dangerous. I finally extend my hand to her boss, slow and deliberate. He takes it. His grip is firm, respectful, and once again, his eyes linger. Not dismissive, not superior, studying, measuring. The label she tried to attach to me doesn't seem to fit the man standing in front of him. I can tell he senses it too. My daughter-in-law notices the hesitation and tightens her smile, stepping half an inch closer to him, reclaiming control of the narrative. I glance toward my son. He's only a few steps away, laughing with guests, unaware or unwilling to be aware of what just happened. I wait, hoping he'll look over, hoping he'll read the room, hoping he'll intervene. He doesn't. That silence lands heavier than her insult. It tells me exactly where I stand in this moment, convenient, quiet, and expected to endure. The reception hall is alive with movement. Dresses swish. Glasses clink. A photographer calls out instructions somewhere behind us. Life continues, unaware that something irreversible has just begun. I feel no urge to correct her. No need to explain myself. I've spent my life building things quietly, without applause. I know who I am. And more importantly, I know who I was before she decided to reduce me to a word. Her boss finally speaks, asking me a simple question. Just my name. Nothing else. I answer calmly. His brow furrows slightly. He asks another question, then another, each one casual, each one cutting through the story she's been telling. I notice the change in her posture, the way her shoulders stiffen, the way her eyes flick between us now. Confidence is slipping. She laughs softly, trying to steer the conversation back, but he doesn't follow. Something has shifted. I can feel it in the space between us. In the way he's looking at me now, not as an accessory to the wedding, not as a joke, but as someone worth paying attention to. I say very little. I don't boast. I don't defend. I let the truth exist on its own. That's all it needs. And as I stand there, surrounded by celebration, I realize something she doesn't yet understand. What her boss is about to do, what he's about to say. And the way he's about to say it is not just going to cost her a job. It's going to become a moment she will remember for the rest of her life. Because humiliation fades, but public reckoning never does. The room has grown strangely quiet. even though the reception continues around us. The music is still playing, the chatter of other guests filling the background. But the energy in this corner, the space around me, my son, his wife, and her boss, has shifted. There's a weight now, a tension that vibrates in the air, the kind of tension that makes people unconsciously pause, adjust their posture, and glance toward you. I can see it in the way some guests turn their heads ever so slightly, sensing that something important is unfolding, even if they don't know what. Her smile is frozen now, tighter than it was a moment ago. She had delivered her insult with perfect confidence, as if she believed she controlled the narrative. But the boss is quiet, his expression unreadable. He studies me, his eyes sharp, scanning, measuring not for weakness, but for truth. And in that look, I can see a flicker of recognition forming. Recognition that the story she spun is incomplete. That the man standing before him is not who she claimed he was. I take a slow breath, keeping my posture calm, composed. Every muscle in my body is steady. I've spent decades learning how to carry myself, how to project authority without raising my voice. It is a skill that has served me quietly, and now it works in my favor without effort. I let her ramble, continue her narrative, thinking she's in control. Let her speak about my supposed failures, my unemployed status, my lack of accomplishments. Every word is a gift because it exposes her arrogance, her assumption that she can define reality. The boss tilts his head slightly, as if he's already piecing things together. He asks me a simple question about my work, about my career, my experience, my past roles. I answer plainly, without embellishment, calmly, as if this is just a conversation between two professionals. My daughter-in-law's eyes widen slightly, but she doesn't stop talking. She's desperate to maintain dominance, but her words no longer carry weight. The more she speaks, the more the boss leans in. Not dismissively, not impatiently, but with an attention that makes her small in comparison. I notice her shift in posture, the subtle tightening of her shoulders. Confidence begins to slip, just a fraction, enough to betray her carefully constructed image. She tries to steer the conversation elsewhere, mentioning her achievements, her work ethic, her influence, but he doesn't acknowledge her claims. Instead, he asks another question about my background, something specific she hadn't anticipated. She hesitates for the first time. A flicker of uncertainty crosses her face. It's remarkable to witness. She had believed that the room belonged to her narrative, that she could diminish me in public and maintain control. And yet, in mere minutes, the balance has shifted. The authority she assumed she had has evaporated, leaving her exposed, fragile. And I do nothing to push it further. I simply stand calmly, letting reality unfold on its own. The guests around us are starting to notice. Not everyone, but enough to sense that something significant is happening. Some whisper, eyes darting back and forth, trying to understand the sudden stillness in this corner of the room. A few glance at me with curiosity, others with surprise, sensing that the man introduced as a loser is in fact far from it. My son watches from a few steps away, his expression a mixture of confusion and dawning awareness. He had trusted his wife's words implicitly, thought her story was harmless. But now he sees it unraveling. I notice him hesitate, as if uncertain whether to step in, whether to correct, whether to confront. He does nothing. He is learning something today. Perhaps more than he's ready for. The boss finally smiles, not politely, not faintly, but fully, knowingly. He turns to my daughter-in-law, the same smile you give when you see a mistake that cannot be undone. "You're fired," he says, calmly, clearly, every word deliberate. Not in anger, not in haste, just truth. The room shifts again, as though someone pulled the rug out from under her entire world. The smile on his face makes it clear, he is not punishing her. He is acknowledging what should have been obvious all along. Her face pales, the color draining slowly as comprehension dawns. She opens her mouth, trying to argue, to justify, to redirect, but the words stumble. Her authority is gone. Her power evaporated. Everyone around us is now looking. Some guests murmur quietly, eyes widening. Others freeze, sensing the severity of what just happened. The wedding, the celebration, the laughter, all of it now carries a new undercurrent. A lesson in pride, arrogance, and consequence. I watch her struggle. Not with cruelty, but with quiet satisfaction. This is not vengeance. This is balance. This is poetic justice, the kind that does not rely on theatrics or anger, but on truth revealed calmly, deliberately, at the right moment. She will remember this moment for the rest of her life. The shock, the humiliation, the realization that the reality she tried to manipulate does not bend to her will. This will not leave her. Not ever. My son finally approaches, tentative, trying to understand, trying to grasp what just unfolded. He looks at me with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. His eyes flick to his wife, then to her boss, then back at me. He has seen my composure, my authority, the quiet power of dignity maintained in public. It's a lesson he won't forget either, even if he struggles with it now. The bride's boss steps aside, subtly, giving me a nod of acknowledgement. Not of flattery, not of admiration, recognition, respect earned in silence, without fanfare, without boasting. It's the kind of recognition that lasts longer than words, one that lingers quietly in the mind and leaves a permanent impression. I remain calm as always. My voice doesn't rise. My posture doesn't falter. I let the lesson settle naturally, as it should. Around us the wedding continues, but the balance has shifted. She will never underestimate me again. She will never forget what happened here today. Not in 1,000 attempts to rewrite the story. And as I stand there, still calm, still unshaken, I understand something profoundly simple: dignity, truth, and experience carry weight far heavier than arrogance, manipulation, or false confidence. You don't need to shout. You don't need to fight. You simply need to exist fully in the truth of who you are, and sometimes that alone is enough to change everything. By the time the music swells again, by the time laughter resumes in the background, everyone in the room knows something subtle has occurred. A quiet, undeniable reckoning. Her lesson is learned. My son's awareness has grown, and my presence, long underestimated, casually dismissed, belittled, has proven itself, as it always has, to be a force no false narrative can erase. The room feels heavier now, though the music and chatter continue as if nothing has shifted. Everyone senses it though. The subtle change in energy is undeniable. Guests glance toward the corner where the confrontation occurred, curiosity and tension in their eyes. Some whisper quietly, while others watch in silence, their expressions a mix of intrigue and apprehension. The atmosphere is electric, charged with the kind of intensity that makes people hold their breath without realizing it. Her face is pale, her composure gone. She tries to smile, to laugh, to act as if nothing happened, but it's a brittle facade. Every gesture is stiff, every word hesitant. She had thought she could control the narrative, belittle me in public, and emerge unscathed. She was wrong. Every syllable, every calculated insult, has been undone in a way she cannot argue with. The boss's simple, deliberate words, "You're fired," echo in her mind. That phrase, so calm, so composed, has shattered the illusion she created. She will never forget the feeling of that moment, the absolute loss of control, the certainty of judgment landing squarely where it belongs. I watch her struggle, quietly, without emotion, because I have nothing to prove. There is no joy in her humiliation, only satisfaction in truth being recognized. The lessons we learn through arrogance often leave lasting scars, and this one will stay with her forever. It is the kind of reckoning that cannot be undone. The boss's gaze remains steady, his eyes reflecting a mixture of respect for me and disappointment in her audacity. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't argue, doesn't humiliate. He simply acknowledges the truth, and the room recognizes it with him. That my son finally steps forward, his expression a mixture of confusion, embarrassment, and dawning awareness. He looks at his wife, then at me, then back at her. For the first time, he sees the weight of his wife's actions in a way he cannot dismiss. He had trusted her words, assumed her judgments were harmless, and yet here she stands, exposed and faltering. The realization hits him slowly, like a wave breaking against a cliff. He had underestimated both of us, me, his father, and her boss, whose discernment and calm authority revealed the truth far faster than any argument or explanation ever could. She attempts to speak, trying to redirect the narrative, to justify herself, to salvage what she can. Her words stumble. She searches for authority, for power, for any sign of control, but the moment has passed. The boss listens patiently, then shakes his head, as if dismissing her attempts. He repeats the decision with absolute clarity, leaving no room for negotiation. "You're fired." The words cut through the air, final and irrevocable. Guests shift in their seats, some gasping quietly, some exchanging incredulous glances. No one has seen anything like this at a wedding before. I remain still, calm, observing everything with measured patience. My son's eyes meet mine briefly. There's something unspoken in that glance, a recognition of steadiness, of composure, of dignity maintained even when provoked. He begins to understand the depth of the lesson unfolding before him, that respect is earned, not assumed, that arrogance has consequences, and that composure in the face of provocation is often more powerful than any reaction. The bride's panic grows. She realizes that the power she thought she wielded has been stripped from her. For the first time, she sees me as more than an unemployed loser. She sees the quiet authority in my stance, the certainty in my presence, and the fact that influence and respect are not dictated by her narrative. Her attempts to interrupt the boss, to explain herself, to justify her claims, are ignored. He is in control of the truth, and the truth always carries weight far heavier than any arrogance or pretense. My son's wife staggers back slightly, her lips pressed together, her hands fidgeting nervously. She is discovering something that will stay with her forever. Power gained through belittling others is fleeting, fragile, and meaningless when confronted with reality. Her boss's words, simple and deliberate, will echo in her mind long after the music fades, long after the wedding ends. It is a reckoning she cannot evade, and one she will carry for the rest of her life. The guests begin to murmur more audibly now, drawn into the moment. Some whisper in awe, some in disbelief, but everyone feels the weight of the scene. This is no ordinary wedding mishap. This is a lesson in humility, authority, and consequences. I can feel the room's energy shift further, people sensing the subtle yet undeniable hierarchy that has emerged. Respect and dignity cannot be faked, and everyone present can see it now. Her boss turns to me again, subtly, offering a nod of acknowledgement. Not admiration, not applause, just recognition of truth, composure, and quiet authority. That is all that is needed. I nod back, calm and measured, as if confirming silently that I understand the balance restored, that I am aware of the lesson delivered, and that no words need to be spoken to reinforce it. My son finally approaches, tentative and uncertain. He doesn't speak at first, just watches, taking in every detail, the defeated expression of his wife, the steady gaze of the boss, my calm composure. He is learning something crucial about boundaries, accountability, and character. The realization is slow and deliberate, shaping him in a way that anger, punishment, or shouting never could. The bride tries one last desperate attempt to reclaim authority, but it fails utterly. She falters under the weight of her mistake, her own hubris reflected in every subtle movement, every hesitant glance. She will never forget this moment, the sting of humiliation, the clarity of judgment, the certainty that she has overstepped in a way she cannot undo. I stand quietly, calm, composed, observing the aftermath of a lesson delivered perfectly. My son now looks at me differently, a new understanding dawning in his eyes. He sees the strength of composure, the impact of measured responses, and the power of truth revealed without haste or malice. The bride's boss has acted decisively, fairly, and calmly, showing that authority is not about volume or aggression, but clarity, timing, and insight. The music swells again. Guests resume their conversations, but the energy has shifted. The wedding is no longer just a celebration. It is a subtle lesson in humility and respect, and everyone present feels it. My presence, once dismissed and demeaned, now carries undeniable weight. My dignity remains intact, and the truth has been revealed in the quietest, most permanent way possible. And in that moment, I know without a doubt that this day, this lesson, and this reckoning will be remembered by everyone involved, especially by the bride. The room has returned to its celebration rhythm. Music swelling, laughter resuming, glasses clinking. But the energy is permanently altered. My daughter-in-law stands off to the side, pale and stiff, her bravado gone. She keeps glancing at the boss, then at me, as if measuring just how much damage has been done and realizing fully that she miscalculated. Her mistake wasn't just the words she spoke about me. It was assuming that anyone in that room would accept her version of reality without question. My son finally approaches, hesitantly, his eyes wide with a mixture of embarrassment and dawning respect. He doesn't speak immediately. He only studies me, noticing the calm in my posture, the steadiness in my expression. There's no triumph in my gaze, only quiet authority, the kind that cannot be shaken by arrogance or insult. I place a hand gently on his shoulder. "It's done," I say simply, and he nods, understanding more in that small gesture than any lecture could ever convey. The boss, still observing, gives me a subtle nod of acknowledgement. Not flattery, not praise, recognition. A quiet confirmation that composure, truth, and experience outweigh arrogance, lies, and assumptions. I don't need to say more. The lesson has been delivered. My daughter-in-law will carry it for the rest of her life, the humbling realization that manipulation and false pride crumble when faced with integrity and truth. I turn and look around the room. Guests are whispering now, some exchanging glances, others shaking their heads slightly in awe of what just unfolded. It is a moment they will remember, the quiet reckoning that didn't need drama, didn't need shouting, didn't need revenge. It simply existed, undeniable, permanent. Some lessons arrive gently. Others arrive like a quiet storm. Today, she learned hers in a way she will never forget. Because truth, when carried calmly and confidently, is the strongest form of justice. And that is a lesson worth remembering.